everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert. And I am proud to welcome you tonight to Small Biz Chat Live. This is our live recording of the Small Biz Chat podcast. And I am so excited to be here with you tonight. We have an amazing show in store. We're going to talk to one of our guests who's going to help all of us figure out how to make the changes that we know we need to make in our business. And if you've always been interested in pursuing government contracts, I got the lady here who's going to break it down how to get your first government contract. And if you're a woman business owner looking for a way to boost your leadership skills, I have an author of a new book here with us who's going to give us her best strategies to build and boost your leadership. And we're going to speak with a serial entrepreneur about how to stop being the roadblock in your own business. And I have an expert who's going to talk about how to battle imposter syndrome. And we have a female business expert who's going to break down how to get government contracts and get this without writing proposals. Now, here on the Small Biz Chat podcast, we talk about how to start and grow successful small businesses. And my guests have amazing insight to share. And you're going to get sage advice from multiple perspectives. The Small Biz Chat live broadcast is a peer-to-peer interview show that gives small business owners a way to get invaluable business advice. And our mission is to end small business failure. Today's experts are business expert Barry Moltz, a serial entrepreneur and government contracting expert, Sirena Moore. And we're going to be talking with business strategist and women business advocate, Molly Gimmel, who's here to discuss her brand new book, Master Your Mindset, How Women Leaders Can Step Up. I am excited to learn from all of them. So now let me introduce my first guest. My first guest is a longtime business expert. I got to tell you guys, he's one of my favorite business experts. He is all about helping companies get unstuck. He's the author of 7 business books. He's a family business advisor and a merger and acquisition consultant. His latest book is Change Masters, how to actually make the change you already know you need to make. Barry also hosts the Small Business Radio Show on AM820 in Chicago. For more information, go to barrymoltz.com. Hey, Barry, welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Boy, Melinda, it's always so great to be here and see you.
Oh my gosh, we're so happy to have you. You know, I want to go back to the beginning because this is a great story. I want to know how you became a business expert.
Well, I became a business expert because I had a lot of success and failure. And so during the bubble of 2000, everybody thought, well, all I got to do to make $1 million is to scratch my business plan on the back of a napkin, give it to a VC firm, they're going to give me $1 million. And as you and I both know, it doesn't quite work that way. So in my first book, You Need to Be a Little Crazy, the truth about starting and growing your own business, I really showed people the ups and downs, the things you go through as a small business owner, how wonderful it is, but a lot of things you need to watch out for.
Definitely. Now, tell us about your new book, Change Masters, and really what it is you want people to learn from your new book.
Well, I think change is difficult for everyone, Melinda. And the reason that I wrote this book is because I had a lot of clients who I would go out as a consultant. We'd sit down for weeks. We'd decide what they needed to change. We'd put together a plan. They agreed that this was the plan. And it was, if they executed it, they would make more money. And then, to my surprise, almost nothing ever happened. And so I thought, well, why is it so hard for people to make changes? And how can I get them to make the changes that they know they got to make? So that's why I wrote the book.
So, what kinds of things do people tend to struggle with in their businesses?
Well, listen, there are 5 major areas that people struggle with. First of all, it's marketing and sales, right? A lot of small business owners never want to do sales or marketing. They're good at once someone says, hey, I'm interested in your product. They're not really good finding suspects. The other is leadership and management. Most of us have never learned how to be a leader or a manager I was lucky enough that I spent my first 10 years at IBM. And when I became a manager, they sent me away for a whole month to management school. We called it charm school to learn how to be a manager. Most of us don't learn it. The third thing is customer experience. The fourth is really managing money, cash flow. And the last thing is really productivity. We get all these things that get in the way of us really doing the things we should be doing. So that's where people mostly have problems around change.
So how can you train your brain to change?
Well, you bring up the brain. I mean, we are biologically programmed not to change because our brain is all about survival. And Melinda, what your brain says is that if something has worked out so far and you're basically not dead, you should keep doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, and also as our brains age, we get lazy, right? We want to keep doing the same thing over and over again because it's difficult. I mean, think about when we all used to go to offices, right? We would get in our car and we would get to the office and we didn't know how we actually got there because your brain has this pattern. And it's difficult for your brain to change because it is a pattern-making machine.
Interesting. So you got to have steps, right?
Of course, there's always steps, and there's always like 10 or 20 steps, and we got 20 steps. And it was, Melinda, I got to tell you, it was really funny. So I have this Change Master worksheet, and it's actually in the book. And when I was, I wrote the book, and I'm testing out this worksheet, of course, I give it to my wife, Sarah, is one of the people I give it to, right? And I say, listen, honey, I'm writing a book on change. Can you take the Change Master worksheet? It talks about what change you want to make and how it's 20 steps to make the change. She looks at it, she goes, I don't need to make any changes. I don't have to do this worksheet. So that's about as far as I got with her. But the first thing is you have to say to yourself, what change do you actually want to make? And you have to be really very specific in this area and think about how you're currently making that change. And if you don't make that change, what are the consequences? My belief is people only make changes if they have no alternative. You've got to be in extreme pain. I mean, partnerships don't break up. Marriages never break up. People just keep going in the direction they're going unless they're in a lot of pain. So what's going to make you make that change? And then when you finally decide to make that change, it's very important to decide what's the first part of the change you can make. So many times, Melinda, people don't make changes because that first step is just way too big. What is the smallest thing you can do? So, for example, a lot of small business owners, as you know, don't read their financial statements, right? And so you want to make a change and you want to read your financial statements, but it's just too big. The information you got to know is too much. So the first part of the change is, can I look at next month what my sales were? Just look at your sales. That's it. And then maybe 2 weeks later you say, well, let me look at my gross margin. Make very small, patient, iterative changes, and those things get there. You also need someone that's going to hold you accountable. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, but if I tell someone I'm going to go do something, then I actually have more of a chance of accomplishing it than if I just keep it to myself.
I get that. So what are the best ways to make changes, like to encourage other people to make changes? Like, what if you need to get your salespeople to make a change?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to set the example yourself. So you've got to show them that you actually can change yourself inside the organization. As I said, you've got to set the example. And then you have to make it worthwhile for them to change. I know for a lot of organizations, Melinda, you and I deal with different CRM vendors, and a lot of companies want to put in a customer relationship management system. But the problem is that no one in the organization actually wants to use it. If you want to make that change, you have to find out what's in it for them. What pain is this change going to solve for them so they can support that change? That's really the only way to do it, because everything being equal, people are going to do the same thing over and over again. And of course, Albert Einstein said that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
So if you want to make a change in your customer experience, is it the same kind of thing?
Well, the first thing you have to decide is what is the change you want to make. Be very, very specific. Things that are way too broad, we never make those changes because it overwhelms us. So what's the specific change you want to make? And the way that people usually do that is they come up and they map their customer journey, right? what are all the different touch points that you have with a customer, and what are the results? What are customers saying about it? They're having a good or bad experience at each of those touch points, and then choose one of those touch points to make the change. See how you do it. Do you succeed? Do you fail? What do you learn from it? And then try to make another change. Now, one of the key parts of making a change is if you're successful, you got to give yourself a reward. For me, it's French fries, right? We don't get enough awards as adults, right? So if you do something good, give yourself an award and then go on to the next change. Very important.
Now, I want you to know I believe in that. I give myself all kinds of jewelry rewards all the time.
That's right. That's right, because we don't get the ribbons like we used to do when we were little kids.
We do not. And that,
and as a Jewish guy, I never came in first or second or third place, right? Except maybe like in the finance contest or something like that. But not in the sports, and those trophies were small.
Well, what kind of changes do people tend to need to make around money management?
Well, most people are crappy at managing money, mostly because they don't keep track of it. I will tell you that most small business owners thinks being successful in business is making a lot of sales. You and I know that's not it. It's your cash flow. It's the money you get to keep. That's really what success is. And so how do I know do I have more money at the end of the month than I have at the beginning of the month? You got to know that. And there are reports inside of your financial system that will tell you that. We're just never taught it. I mean, listen, one of my life's missions is to make sure people understand financial statements, because in 1999, when I sold my last business and I had an MBA from Northwestern University, I lost $1 million off the price of my business because I couldn't read a balance sheet. Now, that's not an advertisement for an MBA at Northwestern University, I can assure you. But my job in life was really, now I want to make sure people understand it, because it's not natural, right? It's not intuitive. And unfortunately, I don't believe accountants do enough, Melinda, in teaching people actually what's important on a financial statement. So that's what they really got to get to know. But start small. I mean, even if you just open up your bank statement at the beginning of the month and see, do I have more cash at the end of the month or the beginning of the month? That will tell you if you're cash flow positive. Start there.
Right. No,
like small changes.
I couldn't agree with you more. And when we come back, we're going to be talking more with Barry Moltz about how to make the changes you really need to make in your small business. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to Small Biz Lady University. Our mission here is to end small business failure. So all of the courses here are about two things: how to become your own boss or how to make money online. So that's what we do here. So whether you want to learn about email marketing and sales funnels, or you're ready to get started with social media selling, or if you're really just getting started with e-commerce, you might want to jump into our How to Sell and Market Online course. Either way, if you want to learn how to become your own boss and do it well, I have everything you need here at smallbizladyuniversity.com. If you have any questions or have any technical problems getting signed up, just email us at support@melindaemerson.com. Take care. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. We are talking with small business expert Barry Moltz about the change and the changes we know we need to make and how hard that is. And he's got a brand new book, Change Masters, teaching us all what we need to do to make change in our business. So, Barry, how can we be change masters for other people?
Well, again, I think, Melinda, you have to set an example, and then you find out what is the biggest pain that people have, and you work on that change, because that's going to motivate them to make that change. If they're not in pain, my experience is people won't make a change.
And then how can we change our personal productivity, though, to manage our time better? What kinds of things do we need to do there?
This is an excellent question, because people use time as an excuse in not getting things done. It's not about time. It's about focus. Most people, for human beings, our natural focus is 7 seconds. And that's like squirrel, right? we have to make sure that we shut out whatever the distractions are and focus on the things that are make a difference in our business in that day. It's not about time. You just use it. People just use that as an excuse.
And then, what is the best business advice anyone has ever given you?
The best business advice that I ever got was business is not about the ideas. It's about the execution of those ideas. So since they're about the execution, it's really about the people that you're doing it with, not what you're doing. I learned that the hard way.
I know that you have. Well, thank you so much, Barry. I really appreciate your valuable insight on how to make change habits so that we don't hurt ourselves and our businesses. Up next, we're going to be talking about how to get government contracts without writing proposals. You're listening to the Small Biz Chat podcast, and we will be right back. Are you ready to become a boss? Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady. Click the button below and take my free boss quiz. This assessment will help you learn your entrepreneur type and find the right business model for you. Get this information about the number one asset in your business. Yeah, that's you. Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I want to give a shout out to the folks that are watching on our Facebook Live channel. Please leave us a comment. Let us know if you heard something that is shareable or if you have an idea for a future topic for the show. Also, we got to love on our YouTube folks. Thank you so much for all of our wonderful subscribers to the Small Biz Lady channel. We very much appreciate you, and keep hanging in there with us because we are going to always continue to fulfill our mission to end small business failure. With that, let me introduce my next guest. Her name is Sirena Moore-Thomas. She's the CEO of the Highmark Group. She is an accomplished mompreneur, author, speaker, and strategist, affectionately known as the destroyer of comfort zone. Despite being a teen mom of twins with no college degree, she has led several multi-million-dollar businesses and won hundreds of federal contracts and continues to empower business leaders around the world. Serena's entrepreneur accomplishments have been featured in the New York Times, NBC Nightly News, Black Enterprise, Essence, Upscale, and on BET. For more information, go to SerenaThomas.com. Sirena, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Hey, Melinda, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Now, I know I've known you for a long time, but my audience may not be familiar with you. So tell me your origin story. How did you get from, teenage mom of twins to where you are today?
So the very short version is this. While my friends were preparing to go to college and have an epic summer that senior year of high school, I was definitely preparing for single parenthood. I had an opportunity about 2 months later after graduation to work with my father on a construction site. It was on that site we found out a contractor was awarded a 6-figure contract to do what he already knew how to do. And he told me if I can figure out how to start a business, he would do the service and we could have our own business. And that was the birth of my entrepreneurial journey. So we started this business in my brother's old bedroom. He paid our first employee with my father's unemployment check. And we grew this business from zero to over about a couple million in sales in about 6 years. And I had no idea that was even a big accomplishment. But during that time, there was no Google, there's no FaceTime, and no Facebook, and no Instagram, and no LinkedIn. It was, AOL dial-up, right? Figure it out. And so that's what I did.
All right. So how did you get into federal contracting? That first contract you heard about, was that a federal contract, or did you get into federal contracting later?
So got into federal contracting later. So like most small businesses, I went after the alphabet soup. You know what I'm talking about, all these certifications. So I was MBE, WBE, DBE, 8A, HIJK, LMNOP, NAACP, like every single certification that existed, I went after. And it was the 8A, the number 8, the letter A, certification through the Small Business Administration that pushed me into federal contracting. contracting. It's a business development certification, the only one of its kind. And so once I entered that program, a few years into it, I was able to discover how powerful it is to do business with the federal government.
So is there a difference between like federal contracting and state and local government contracting?
For sure. There's definitely a difference between the federal and the state and local. So I call it going to where the money resides. The money resides at the federal level, right? And that budget is passed down, then state and then local and municipal. And so I decided that it was just harder for me personally to do business in the city and in the state. It was more difficult. The market was smaller. It was a little bit of work and a lot of people fighting for it. And so at the federal level, I found a bigger pool to swim in. And so that's what I decided to do. But there's a huge difference, definitely.
So speaking of that, if someone's thinking about a business model or expanding their business model right now, do you think that looking in the federal contracting space makes sense?
So federal, yes, makes a whole lot of sense for multiple reasons. One, they never run out of money. Contrary to popular belief, they can print their own legally, okay? They are spending $500 billion a year in contracting, and about 197, 200 billion is set aside for small businesses. So you have a huge market. They're the largest customer in the world. There are so many initiatives right now specifically for small disadvantaged businesses. There are initiatives from the White House. There's an initiative right now to spend to increase the contracts going to small disadvantaged businesses by 50% over the next 4 years. Oh, wow. That equates to $100 billion to small businesses. It's a great opportunity.
So tell me about, if I want to get started with federal contracting, you got to get registered, right? So tell me about SAM and what is that?
Yeah, so you do have to register in sam.gov. I mean, if you've applied to any other certification or any other program, it's about the same. I mean, people make a big deal about it, and there are people who charge you to do that for you. And if you don't want to do it, then you should go that route. But you can do it yourself. You do need to commit some time. I suggest you connect with somebody that knows what they're doing, but you have free resources to do so. But the only thing you need to do really is sam.gov. There's no longer a DUNS number necessary, so they have the unique identifier now, and you can get all of that on sam.gov. And I think every small business should be registered, at least registered in sam.gov. Whether you know you're going to do business with the government or not, you should at least go through the process of registering to do business.
Okay. All right. So your claim to fame is that you help people win contracts without writing proposals. And my ears perked up when you said this is the topic that you wanted to talk about. I was like, okay, break that down for me, because I almost feel like working on a federal proposal is like a hazing process. Like literally, it's like one of the most painful things I have ever done in my life. And my business graduated from the 8A program, mid 2000s. But I will tell you that doing business with the federal government is nobody's joke. but I want you to break it down for us. When you say get contract without proposals, what are you talking about?
So here's the deal, Melinda. I sat in the front row of a PTEC conference, right? And a PTEC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They are free. They offer services to help you do business with the government. Okay, so that's somewhere you should go. But they pulled up a slide that had like 22 points on it. Like, this is how you do business with the government. And I sat there looking like, what you talking about, Willis? There has to be an easier way to do this. And so there was. First, there's a few ways to win. The federal government also buys they buy various ways. The purchase card is a powerful way to do business with the federal government without writing proposals. What am I talking about? Well, the federal government buys everything from chicken to dog food, to yoga instructors, to aircraft parts, right? So they buy everything, catering services, janitorial, IT, you name it, they buy it. But there are these government purchase card holders that exist all over the country in every single agency, and they can spend on their government credit card up to $10,000. These are not opportunities that you're going to find on SAM. These are opportunities you develop relationships for. My very first janitorial contract was done with a purchase card. It wasn't something that went out for solicitation, because legally the government doesn't have to publicize if it's under $25,000. And so if you read on sam.gov, which used to be FBO, whatever, it'll say these are contracting opportunities. Most of these are $25,000 and above. So what about what happens $25,000 and below? So imagine if you can win $10,000 at a time. What would that do for your business? So that's only one way, though. We got time for another?
Oh, please. I mean,
okay. So the purchase cards. You have your purchase cards, and I did a janitorial services one with a purchase card, right? The simplified acquisition procedure is really what I'm talking about. So that's FAR Part 13. The FAR is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, okay? FAR Part 13 talks about simplified acquisitions. The threshold for simplified acquisitions is $250,000, okay? So $250,000 and below, the government can use a simplified procedure. So there's purchase cards, there are purchase orders, right, where they can just place an order for your service. There are RFQs, the request for quote. I work in a specific system called DIBS, supplying items to the Defense Logistics Agency. In DIBS, there's no paper. It's a web-based platform. You enter your price on one form, and it's an RFQ. And so there's never a proposal necessary. It's based on price and delivery. And so those are options. You have sole source contracts, right? If you're in the 8A program, all of the contracts I won were sole source primarily. And you know, I have strategies for that, and you can find out about that on SirenaThomas.com. But so I think I gave you 4 ways just now.
Yeah, no, I get it. So it's about going after that small money, right? I think everyone thinks about the federal government, and they think about $5 million, $10 million, $50 million contracts, and they forget about these small money contracts that you can get just, you know, on a whisper almost, it sounds like. So how do you go about finding who's the card holders? Like, I mean, because I'm assuming there's some kind of directory or something. How do I find out if I want to sell something to the SBA? How do I find out who the card holders are?
Yeah, so, and every agency is going to work different. So, right, the very first thing you want to do is you want to know who buys what you sell, right? That's part of what you want to know. Who buys what you sell? There are so many agencies and so many offices located within the agencies. It's so much more than, you know, Navy, Marines, the Air Force. There are the Office of the Interior, the Office of the Blue Cow and the Red Dove, and the Office of, I mean, they have offices I believe they make up. I'm so serious. Some of them, the names are hilarious, but there are purchase card holders there. The federal government has this thing called like freedom of information, which is another reason why I love them. You can find purchase card holders online. Specifically, I'll talk about the Air Force. Okay, Air Force, they have a program called the First Look program. They're looking to redirect $1.8 billion that they already spend on purchase cards to small businesses that are located right outside of their gates. And so if you go, and if you can Google this, Air Force bases near me, First Look program. But if you go to their OSDBU map, their Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, you can actually find the purchase card holders. You can search and it'll bring up a map and it'll show you the purchase card holders in your region, their phone numbers, their names. Remember, we're talking taxpayer dollars. I get to know who can spend my taxpayer dollars. And if you think about it that way, you go searching that way, right?
So it's really about narrowing down on the agency and then drilling, and then like kind of drilling down from there.
Yeah.
Like the office and kind of getting some direction there.
And your OSDBU can be the first stop. That's like one of the first places you should always go. And then they can even direct you to the program office and then to the purchase card holders.
Okay. So what about federal contract vehicles like GSA schedule and things like that?
Mhm.
Are those necessary? Are those helpful?
They are absolutely not necessary. Helpful depending on what you do. It depends on what you're selling to the government. There's more money spent on purchase cards than there is GSA.
Really?
Really.
I actually did not know that.
And so, yeah, you could do the numbers. I mean, there's the GSA. The GSA schedule is great to have. It's a great contracting vehicle, but it's often promoted and sold by people that do the GSA. It's sold as a guaranteed contract. There are no guaranteed contracts. It's not a guaranteed contract. You get this vehicle, you still have to market yourself. You still have to find who's buying what you're selling. You still have to, like, there's things you have to do. So it's not a guaranteed vehicle.
So if I decided, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna start pursuing government contract, what is a reasonable sales cycle or timeline? Like, somebody with a P card is not gonna meet me and then drop it on me, 2 weeks later. How do you? What is a realistic timeline for my listeners to really kind of understand how long this process actually takes?
Got it. So strategy is going to be everything, right? And so if you have, the first thing I have you do is look in your house. Who do you know? What relationships can we leverage? Let's talk about agencies. Have you done business with the government before? Have you not? Like, there are a lot of factors that go into play here, right? So have you done any business at all? Do you have an agency that's located near you? You can call a purchase card holder tomorrow and say, and I'll just give you all this for free because I teach my students this. I have my students call as students because most people are afraid to make phone calls. It's a unfortunate, but it's small business stuff, right? And they call purchase card holders, and guess what they say, Miss Melinda? They say, "Hi, my name is Sirena, and I'm a student. I'm learning all about simplified acquisitions and purchase card holders. Are there any purchase card holders in your office? Could I speak with one? What kind of things do you guys buy on your purchase card? How do you find small bit? Do you see what I'm saying?" But this is all available at Mission 500K. I teach you how to get to it. Okay, mission500k.com. How to have the hard frightening phone calls. That's what I call it with my students. How to make the frightening phone calls. And no one can see you over the phone going like this, rubbing your hands. So you can do that tomorrow. That's available to you.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to have you put a pin in that. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, Sirena Moore-Thomas is going to break down even more for us about how to get a government contract without writing a proposal. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You're watching the Small Biz Chat podcast, and we will be right back. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to Small Biz Lady University. Our mission here is to end small business failure. So all of the courses here are about two things: how to become your own boss or how to make money online. So that's what we do here. So whether you want to learn about email marketing and sales funnels, or you're ready to get started with social media selling, or if you're really just getting started with e-commerce, you might want to jump into our How to Sell and Market Online course. Either way, if you want to learn how to become your own boss and do it well, I have everything you need here at smallbizladyuniversity.com. If you have any questions or have any technical problems getting signed up, just email us at support@melindaemerson.com. Take care. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. All right, Sirena, are there certain government agencies that are better to go after? Like, is it all about DOD? Or do I need to be, is it better to be more niche? Is it better to pick one or two agencies and focus on them? And which ones are good for the pickings?
There are a lot. And so because I have experience winning both product and service, so after the cleaning contracting company where we won multiple, contracts, 5-year contracts, I went on to run another company supplying Boeing aircraft parts to the federal government through DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency. And so my experience is both in product and in service. If you're going product, DLA is the place to be. They provide the product for 11 combatant commands, all the different branches of the government. So product, you might want to consider DLA, and then the DIBS system, which is the DLA Internet Bid Board System. It's an acronym, DIBS, right? I teach on that system. Not many people teach about that system. I've won hundreds of purchase orders without writing a proposal on the DIBS system, right? So if product, I'm gonna point you toward DIBS a little more than other places. If service, it depends. IT services, for example, Treasury Department buys tons. I was actually just on a call earlier today, and I wrote it on sticky. They spent $145 billion spent with small businesses. Yeah, so Department of Treasury, that might be an opportunity. Department of Education, there are opportunities there, training and IT also. So it really depends on where you are, but USAspending.gov, you can get the information on who's spending on what you sell. So that's what I would say to do.
All right. So if you had to recap the top 3 things you need to do to get rolling with government contracting, what is it?
So the first thing is to go to mission500k.com and connect with Sirena so she can teach you so that you don't bump your head, okay? Because I'm straight, no chaser. This is it. What you see is what you get. So if you're okay with this style, then I'm your girl. Then sam.gov, right? Sam.gov, you just need to get registered. That's first. The next thing that I would say, is I would say go to your PTAC. You have all of these free services, right? But the free services are only as good as the instructions you have on using them, right? So there is PTAC, right? There is SBA, there is SCORE, there is SBDC, there is MBDA. But if you don't know what role they should play in this monster, it's going to be overwhelming and confusing. So after you register for my class, I'll show you how to do all of that. And then you'll go to SAM, and then you'll go to PTAC. Okay, that's pretty much what I would say.
All right. Well, what's the best business advice you've ever gotten?
You do not have to accomplish your whole life's mission this year, Sirena. Slow down.
Okay. I think that's really, really fair and good advice. Thank you so much, Sirena, for all of your information. Up next, we're going to be talking with an author about how to boss up, woman up, and build your leadership in your small business. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to become a boss? Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady. Click the button below and take my free boss quiz. This assessment will help you learn your entrepreneur type and find the right business model for you. Get this information about the #1 asset in your business. Yeah, that's you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm now with my guest, Molly Gimmel. She is a highly respected entrepreneur, speaker, advocate, and author of the new book, Master Your Mindset, How Women Leaders Step Up. As Chief Executive Officer of Design to Deliver, she provides program management support services to federal government agencies. In 2021, she founded Bellomo Leadership Institute to help women become better leaders. She served on the board of directors for the National Association of Women Business Owners, and she also serves as a delegate to the United States on W20, the G20's working group on women issues, and is a member of the advisory board of George Mason University's Women in Business Initiative. For more information, go to mollygimmel.com. Molly, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So tell me about your business. Tell me how you became so wise about, women's business leadership and what we all need to do to be better.
Well, I co-founded my business, I should say, Design to Delivery in 2001, after spending 10 years working for several of the large government contracting consulting firms. And when I first started the business, when my business partner and I, Diana, we were similar to what Sirena does, actually. We were a consulting firm helping small businesses to do government contracting. But after a few years of that, we decided to pivot and start bidding on contracts for ourselves. And unfortunately, we did have to write proposals. But it became very lucrative because we won several large contracts and grew very fast. And as part of that, I joined NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, because I had never owned a business before and I wanted to get that education around being a better business owner. And was very active here in the local, I'm in the DC area. I was very active here in the local chapter, and then decided to get involved at the national level, served on several national committees, then on the national board. And so that's really what sparked my interest in leadership and helping women become more effective leaders.
What was it like for you to run a business that was growing that fast?
It was a little crazy. We went from 20 employees to about 80 in about 3 years.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was a lot of scrambling and juggling and keeping balls in the air and trying to hire a ton of people all at the same time. And fortunately, with government contracts, a lot of the time when you win them, you just hire all the people that the former contractor employed. And that was the case on some of our contracts, but there were others that we had to go out and hire. And so when we got to about 45, 50 employees, then we were like, we really need an HR manager. So we had to bring in an HR manager to help manage the people and deal with all the benefits and stuff. And so, yeah, it was a little crazy, but fun and exciting at the same time.
And you've been on the Inc. 5000 list a couple of times, right?
Yeah, 4 times we made the Inc. 5000 list.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, tell me, when did you start? Like, why did you decide to start the Valemo Leadership Institute?
Decided to start that last year when I finished writing my book, because I wrote the book for the person that I used to be. I took a class and they said, the person that you're best equipped to help is the person that you used to be. And I thought about, when did I need that kind of help? And it was really a couple of years before I started my business, when I was working for one of the large consulting firms. I was at Arthur Andersen in their government practice, and I had gotten promoted into a leadership position, as a manager, and really wasn't given much training or mentorship. And so I decided to start the Valemo Leadership Institute to provide women who are at that level in their careers with that leadership training, that community and network of other women peers in other organizations, and to provide that training and mentorship to women in that space.
Well, I think that's an interesting concept about training the woman that you used to be. That is a very powerful statement. Now, I know in your book, Master Your Mindset, you talk a lot about the power of connection. And but what I thought was fascinating is you say it's important to connect to oneself before you connect to others. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I think in order to be an effective leader, you have to know yourself first. And the thing that makes people be attracted to a person as a leader is confidence. That's the number one characteristic that draws people to you. But how do you get that confidence? You get that by figuring yourself out, by knowing yourself better, by knowing your strengths and your weaknesses and believing in yourself. And so I think it's really important to, and I use the word connect as to say knowing yourself, understanding how you feel, understanding how you think, in order to know yourself better, to be a better leader.
What are some of the other things that you think are important when you think about leadership? Like, what other skills do people need? Obviously, okay, being honest about who they are as a communicator and leader. Okay, but what else do they need to know?
Yeah. Well, in this book, I talk about different mindsets that are important to be an effective leader. So the book, as you mentioned, is about connecting with yourself and then connecting with others. But then within each of those sections, I talk about different specific mindsets that have to do with that. So for example, within connecting with yourself, there's getting over imposter syndrome. There's mastering your mental chatter. There's developing resilience. There's being decisive. And then in connecting with others, there's having empathy, there's being approachable, being authentic. So those are all different mindset areas that I think are really important. Each of them is important individually, but then also collectively in order to be an effective leader.
So are there specific things you think people should be doing to improve their leadership?
Absolutely. I think, and one of the mindsets in here is developing a growth mindset. I think it's really important to always want to be learning new things, always trying to be improving yourself and growing as a person and as a leader. And so I think it's really important to take workshops, read books, identify those areas that maybe you're a little weaker in, and, try to improve yourself.
Now, I know that one of the things you talk about is, being authentic and being transparent about your own struggles and challenges and fortitude. But should everybody know these things about you? Or, do you need to pick the 2 or 3 people in your organization that needs to know about that time you had that Mariah Carey meltdown? How do you
Well, I don't think anybody needs to know about your Mariah Carey meltdown. I think being authentic is not about telling all of your secrets. It's about being you. It's about being the real you, not trying to put on a false front and pretend like you have no emotion or that you're always perfect. It's admitting that, yeah, you make mistakes, but it's not necessarily sharing all of your, the skeletons in your closet. It's a very different thing.
All right, and let's talk about imposter syndrome, because this is something that comes up a lot. I hear young women talk about it, but I hear seasoned women talk about imposter syndrome. And it's this idea that they don't deserve to be in the spot that they're in, or that they don't deserve the opportunity, that people think they're smarter than they really are. Oh no, what if somebody finds out, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important to nip imposter syndrome in the bud, and what are some of the ways that you suggest people do that?
I don't know that imposter syndrome is that you don't deserve it. It's that you feel like you're a fraud. You feel like you're not actually qualified to be in the position that you're in. And I think it happens a lot when people are put into new positions, when they're promoted or they get a new job or something along those lines. And it's something new and different, and they haven't done it before. So therefore they don't feel qualified. They feel like a fraud, and they're worried that people will figure out that they really don't know what they're doing. And I think it's not necessarily a horrible thing. As I say in the book, Adam Grant, who is an author of several books and a professor at Wharton, cites a study in his new book that medical students who have imposter syndrome actually give better patient care than ones who are overconfident, because they're worried that they're not as qualified. So they make sure they're doing everything right. So, I think it's not a problem to have imposter syndrome. It's a problem when you can't get past it, when you let it sabotage you. So I think some ways to get over it are to identify what's making you feel imposter syndrome. Is it the fact that it's a brand new position and you don't really know what you're doing? You don't have experience? Do you think that everybody else is more educated than you? Figure out what it is that's causing you to have that imposter syndrome, to feel like you're not qualified for whatever position you're in, and then fix that situation. If you feel like people have more knowledge than you, go take a course in the topic, go take a workshop, read a book about it.
Read a book about it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, how can you stay more mindful around your self-talk? Because isn't it your self-talk that kind of talks you into imposter syndrome?
Absolutely.
How can you be more mindful about how you talk to yourself?
Yeah, you know, your self-talk is kind of the key to everything. It's that voice in your head that's saying either, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, you really don't know what you're doing, you're an imposter, or hey, you're really stupid, or whatever. A lot of people have very negative self-talk. So I think it's important to be aware of what your self-talk is, to really listen to yourself, listen to that voice in your head and identify what it's saying to you and figure out if it's being helpful, if it's being supportive to you, or if it's sabotaging you. And if it is sabotaging you, being aware of that. So, and coming up with counters, you can actually talk back to that voice. And if it starts up on you and tells you how stupid you are, you don't know what you're doing or whatever, tell it to shut up.
Exactly.
Seriously.
And some other things too, right?
Yeah.
But listen, what is the best business advice that you've ever gotten?
The best business advice I've ever gotten is to always keep learning new things.
I think that's great advice. I think that's really, really great advice. And listen, I'm really so excited to dig into more of your book because you really hit on some really important stuff that I think any leader at any level, can benefit from. Now, what I want to do is invite all of my guests back. So we're going to invite Barry Moltz to come back and Sirena Moore-Thomas to come back. And we are going to have a cute little panel that I like to call Hit It and Quit It. So let me tell you guys what the rules are. I am going to ask a question, the same question to all three of you. You're not allowed to repeat someone else's answer, and all of your answers have to be done in 30 seconds or less. So it's got to be brief, like Twitter, okay? So you guys know the rules, and if you break my rules, you're going to get the cowbell. I don't want to give you that. So let's get started. I'm going to come to you, Barry, first. I'm going to come to you, Sirena, second, and Molly, you third. Okay, here is our first question. What is your favorite podcast? What is your favorite podcast? Barry Moltz.
Well, I got to say it's yours, Melinda, if I can't choose mine. So it's definitely yours. I'm glad I got to go first on that one.
Well, thank you, Barry. I appreciate it. I actually love your podcast, too. All right, Sirena, what's your favorite podcast?
I think I would be wrong if I don't choose my own now, because I was going to say Melinda's and then you already did. So now I get a chance to say the BMW Life, Boss Mom Wife Life with Sirena Moore-Thomas. It's totally transparent and amazing, I think.
Well, I'm going to have to check that out. All right, Molly, what is your favorite podcast?
Well, since I can't say yours, I will say it's School of Greatness with Lewis House.
That's a good one. I like Lewis a lot, and that's a good podcast. Good stuff. All right, here's your second question. Now, this time, I'm going to start with Sirena first, then Molly, then Barry. Okay, you guys ready? Second question. What is your favorite business app? Favorite business app?
Oh, God, I have so many.
And we all pull out our phones.
What is your favorite business app, Miss Sirena?
My favorite one is iThoughts. Definitely iThoughts. It is a mind map app, and I'm a brain dumper and a mind mapper, so iThoughts.
All right, good stuff. Molly, what's your favorite app?
I'd say Evernote. I keep everything in there. That's my go-to depository or repository for notes, passwords, everything.
Love it. Barry Moltz, what's your favorite app?
I gotta say mine is very practical. It's Zoho Sign. I find I gotta sign so many things, and we used to print the document, sign it, right, and then scan it and send it back. Now you can just do it electronically, and Zoho Sign works perfectly.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, now, next question. I'm gonna come to you first, Molly, then Barry, then Sirena. All right, what is your favorite old school marketing tip? Favorite old school marketing tip? Back in that AOL dial-up phase, the one of them, like, was one of the things that we did before you could just, harass people on LinkedIn.
My favorite old school marketing tip is to be focused, to not just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks, but to focus on what your key capabilities to your target customer.
All right?
My turn? I would say to try to get to a yes or a no. Of course, yes is the best answer when you're trying to sell something, but no isn't bad because when someone gives you a quick no, it releases that opportunity and you can go on and move to other opportunities where people might say yes.
I like that answer, Barry. Good stuff. All right, Sirena, what's your best answer?
And I'm last, and let me see. So I was thinking about like how much I miss just having to show up in the room like you were meant to be there, right? And really providing value and not being the, what can you do for me? But showing up in the room, introducing yourself, but looking for ways to provide value and showing up like you were meant to be there.
I like it. I like it. I call that being more interested than interesting, right? Yeah, definitely. You want to look for ways that you can serve always. My favorite old school marketing tip is actually writing handwritten notes. That's what I still do that. And
Love
people
that.
treasure them. And even when people buy like one of my autographed books off my site, I always write something personal in it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen on social media somebody took a picture of the little note I put in the book because it meant so much to them. All right, last question. Barry, I'm coming to you first. Then
All right, I'm ready.
Then Molly. What is the best business book you've ever read? Best business book you've ever read?
I would say Love is the Killer app. I love that book because it really talked about how important relationships are in business. And I think that Tim Sanders really got it right. And that book's got to be at least 20 years old.
Love it.
Besides Become Your Own Boss in 12 months. I didn't know if that was a choice or not. I'm going to give that to somebody else.
Cheating. You're cheating, sir. You're cheating.
That was cold, Barry. You did 2 books. All right, Sirena.
So, Who Not How was like transformational, especially when it comes to like leading a team and just like it's not so much about focusing on the how to, how do I do this, how do I do. It's about identifying the who, not the how. And I can't remember the name of the author because I'm drawing a blank. And so I was trying to look it up.
I'm familiar with the book though, so most business people are the who, not the how.
Dan Sullivan. Yeah.
Yes. Great book. Great
Good
book.
book.
All right, Molly, what's your favorite business book?
Besides my own, I would say it's, I have so many because I read business books constantly, but I'll say it's Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath.
Okay, I haven't read that one. So interesting. Why do you like that book?
It really gave me a new perspective on different ways to make effective decisions. And I think that's really important to being a good leader, is making good decisions. I
agree. Another book that I read similar to that, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a very good book because I used to think the power of making a decision was how fast you made the decision. And it was when I went to graduate school and got my MBA at Drexel, they made, like, one of the first things they did, they made us read this book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And I was like, I don't need that. And then I read this book and I was like, oh, dang. Like, you know, it made me completely think about things differently. Because the one thing I remember about that book was they said, you got to make sure you're answering the right question. And sometimes when you think too fast, you might be thinking it's this, when if you actually took a minute to think about it, it's this over here.
Yeah.
So that was a very powerful message from that book. So I love that book. I like you, am a voracious reader, but one of my favorite books is Disrupt You by Jay Samit. And I love that book because he says, if you want to disrupt the world, start by disrupting yourself. So I love that book and I love Jay. So this was awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for being my guest. Barry Moltz, please check out his brand new book, Change Masters, How to Make the Changes you already know that you need to make. Also, thank you to Sirena Moore-Thomas. Please check out her training program at mission500k.com. And if you're a woman business owner, please add Molly Gimmel's new book, Master Your Mindset, How Women Leaders Step Up, to your reading list. Thank you all for joining me for this episode of the SmallBizChat podcast. If you're still working on your digital pivot, please take advantage of Small Biz Lady University. We have 4 courses available for you to take your business to the next level. And I want to invite you to check them out because everyone deserves to make the money that they work so hard towards. So listen, a mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host, and I will leave you with this. You never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. Good night, everybody.